Jazz. Hey guys, welcome everyone to this Sunday. Good to see everyone here. I'm hoping that everyone here has had a good weekend so far. And we're here today at St. Louis Downtown Airport, right next to St. Louis, Missouri, as we're now doing episode 17 already. Yes, we've already done 17 of them since May. And today we're going to be heading to Kansas City, Missouri, the heart of America. And we're going to be paying a visit to the Kansas City Royals. And we're going to explore one of baseball's most forgotten chapters, the black baseball leagues that existed from the 1880s all the way to the 1950s. And the reason for this was pretty obvious. Kansas City is home to a baseball museum that's dedicated to that forgotten chapter as well. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming here today. And we're gonna have something planned to be special here today. So, our flight plan today, I'm gonna go ahead and let me pull this up. Once I get to it, it's right here in my nav map. So, our flight plan for today, we're gonna be taking off from St. Louis downtown. Our first stop, we will be going to State Technical College, one Hotel 3, which is right there in the State Technical College of Missouri. We're going to make a landing here. Then lane number 2, we'll be heading from there to Jefferson City, the capital of Missouri. And then we'll be flying to nearby Columbia, Missouri, home of the University of Missouri Tigers, and this state's largest university. And our second stop will finally land at Sadala, Missouri. And then for our final leg, we'll be flying from there to Kansas City. Pay a visit to Kauffman Stadium, the old Municipal Stadium site, and the Black Baseball League Museum. We'll be paying a visit there and land here at Charles B. Willard Downtown Airport, which is Kilo Mike Kilo Charlie. And that will conclude our trip through Missouri. So there you go, guys. Kind of a bit of a simple flight plan here today. And I see that Alec D is in the chat. Good to see you. And Haas00312 is in the chat. Good to see you, everyone in the chat. Hello. So you can tell here, we have a beautiful view of downtown St. Louis. This is the airport we stopped last time. So we're going to go over here. Now for the plane we're going to take. I'm going to take a bit of a speedier plane than the last one. But this plane would definitely be appropriate for today's trip. This here is the JMB VL3. Now this ultralight was built in the Czech Republic. And the old Czechoslovakia area is known for being a very big deal in building ultralight aircraft. This plane can go to a top cruising speed of 130 knots in the game, but with higher performing versions, can go up to 150 knots. It has a cruise speed of 130 knots. It has a really good range too, around 600 nautical miles. This is the world's fastest ultralight, and it's definitely a fantastic plane. It's a beauty to fly. You have the glass cockpit. It is just really fun, and in fact, it's so good that Got Gravel actually made their own version, the Vertigo. And that thing is a racing machine. It's a beauty of a racing machine. Definitely one of my favorites. So you can definitely get in the cockpit. Now, if you guys are curious, I'm on the East Jersey server, and here is the route for today's trip. Up here. So we can definitely get there as well. So right here, we get the fuel pretty good. I think we have more than enough fuel for today's trip. Now to get this thing started should be pretty easy. This is a pretty easy plane. We just open, and we're going to go for the right left fuel tank. We're going to keep the throttle at idle. Now there's a choke. We just pull that. There's the choke. The master switch. You turn that on. Avionics turn on. The fuel pump will be pushed down. Brakes must be fully applied. Must engage the starter. Oil pressure is checked. I think our pressure's good. Pressure out the oil and release the brakes. It's that easy. This plane is. Now we just turn on our such. I don't need you pushback. Now we don't really. We are going to take off at runway 30L. That's where we're going to be taking off. Pretty easy airport to take off and off. I'm just more worried about taxiing this thing. Now, the thing that really surprised me with this is that this is a very great performance. This thing could take off. It has surprisingly strong takeoff capabilities. If you put flaps with this and you put full power, you can take off. That can impress even bush planes. It can even beat some of the bush planes, which is very impressive that this is even made for bush short takeoffs. And this thing can actually do it. It's more than capable of it. Whoops, whoops. So we take off all the way at runway 3L left. So we're going to taxi all the way to the runway. So this should be pretty easy. We should get this taxi quite easily. We get the rudder moving. This should be a rather easy way to take off and land. So 2 days ago on Friday, I did my bush flight series in trip. I took the Cubcrafters X Cub, but but I took it with the performance mod from my good friends at Bushwick Legends, and we did an all Washington State tour. It was absolutely beautiful. We got to see some of the iconic peaks, including Mount Adams, St. Helens, and Mount Rainier, the beautiful forest, lakes. It was just incredible. The Pacific Northwest is some of my favorite flying area in the sim, so I love it. And then I got plans. So on Friday, the next one I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be taking the Junkers Ju-52 because it'll come out of the knife. And I have it's going to be a war movie inspired flight plan through the Swiss and Austrian Alps. So this should be pretty fun. And we even get to go over some filming locations of one of the most iconic World War II movies, Where Eagles Dare. This would be a really cool one. It's my way of honoring the movie. So I think it'd be really cool. As the Ju-52 is the plane they used throughout the entire movie, so I think it'd be really cool to honor a movie. And there's Alec D, and it looks like he brought in the Diamond DA-40. That's a great plane to pick. But I wanted to take the VL-3 since I took the DA-40 before in the sim. Good to see you, Alec D. So we're gonna go ahead and on the runway brake. Okay. Now we're gonna go full power. And just watch this thing gonna take off with just no flap, and look at this. This thing's already off. I mean, this thing has insane takeoff performance. Like, with no flaps, this thing has insane short takeoff capabilities. This thing could be a disgusting bush plane if it really wants to be. I see Alec D's in the air. So right now, I'm not the only one streaming right now. I know Murph's streaming on a Sunday. I know that's weird. Murph doesn't usually stream on Sundays. He usually streams on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. It's weird to see him on a Sunday stream, but he's right now flying the early access of the P-30 Lightning II from Flying Iron Simulations, and that thing looks insane. And I love their Spitfire, so I'm hoping the P-38 turns out to be really good. So we're gonna fly across St. Louis for one last time, fly through the Gateway of the West, fly through Gateway Arch, and then we'll get back to our flight plan. So I got the little map. We're gonna just fly to St. Louis for one last time as we head through the Gateway of the West, and we'll head back to the flight destination. But yeah, I love this VL-3. You have amazing visibility. You have incredible visibility. E2, it just flies smooth. It has incredible visibility. This thing really has everything you could want in a great all-around plane. It has visibility. You can see everything so easily. There's the Gateway Arch. We're gonna fly with that for one last time before we head to Kansas City, to our first stop at State Technical College. We're gonna fly through the arch one last time. There's the old the old courthouse, and there's Busch Stadium for one final passover. And then we'll head back to our destination here. There's Busch Stadium, and we're now heading to our destination. We'll just follow the old Mississippi River. So yeah. There's the old Busch Brewery down there. There it is. So we're now going to be on the rise. Now I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't really know. And I'm ready to put the slideshow stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start doing this. So the slideshow title is called Royal Heritage. And this is a reference to the fact that Kansas City baseball teams have been the most notable teams in the city are named after royal stuff. And that includes the Monarchs and such. So I wanted to name it after the proud city itself. So the big thing I want to talk about, one of the two major topics I want to talk about, and this one is actually very, very important for Kansas City and for the city, are the Black Baseball Leagues. Officially, they were called the Negro Leagues, and yes, that is what they were officially called. But the reason they came to existence was due to the fact of racial segregation. They were usually comprised of African Americans and to a lesser extent Latin Americans. While organized leagues were common in black baseball, there were only 7 that were considered to be the top quality of play in their existence. There were only 7 of them, but the most notable were the Negro American and Negro National Leagues are the 2 most important ones. And currently, right now, there have been 35 players from those leagues in Cooperstown, and in 2020, Major League Baseball has finally did this, and this is what should have happened decades ago. They started to classify those 7 leagues as major leagues, and they now officially add them as official statistics of those leagues. Which I'm going to say this, it is about time that happened. It's what needed to happen a long time ago. I can't believe it took all the way to 2020 of all things to finally count them as official statistics. So basically, now the history of these leagues goes a long way back. Now the history started because they were that many of the due to the fact that many black people were not accepted into the world of professional baseball due to racism and segregation. They formed their own teams, and the first such team was in 1885 to form the Cuban Giants, and it led to the success of the first recognized league in 1887 by the 1880s. And this led to the National Colored Baseball League. Now, this league didn't really last very long, but it was the first major league that was formed. And this guy here is Octavius Cano. Now, Cano is actually a visionary, and he was the pioneer who wanted to bring professional black baseball to American blacks. So there you go. In fact, that league didn't really last long, as that league only lasted for 1 season, but there were teams in Baltimore, Boston, Louisville, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Washington, but 2 of those teams never played. And due to the fact that the Cuban Giants were such a success, that there has been a lot of imitators to the world of black baseball. There has been lots of imitators out there. And some of those included the X-Giants, which was made of ex-players of the team, became a powerhouse around 1900. In fact, one of the worst things that could happen to them was all the segregation happening, and professional baseball didn't really have it back then. But it was not until 1887 when Cap Anson did his thing. So now we get to 1888, and we get to the next chapter of it, and that being Frank Leyland. Now, Frank Leyland was a businessman and Frank Leyland got some of the black businessmen in Chicago, and he sponsored the Union Baseball Club, and through the government, he got a permit to play at Southside Park, and his team eventually became known as the Chicago Unions, one of the most successful teams in the most successful black baseball teams of the era. And this eventually led to multiple championships as well, and eventually they were merged in 1901. which is quite an interesting history itself. In 1903, the Philadelphia Giants were most well known for being one of the more successful teams. It was owned by Walter Schlichter, who was a white businessman, and they lost to the Cuban ex-Giants in their version of the College Championship. Now, Ruth Foster's name is going to be a pretty big name. And because of Ruth's popularity, Schlichter would eventually actually buy out the contract of Ruth Foster and beat them in the rematch. And Philadelphia remained at the top of the black baseball world until 1907. Now, Ruth Foster was actually really huge for another reason. Ruth Foster was kind of a big deal, as Ruth Foster was envisioning to bring back an all-black baseball league. And he really was adamant to bring it back, that it hasn't been seen since the 1980s. And the one thing he really insisted on was the fact that it should be owned by black men instead of white businessmen, which tried to make them equal to that. This put him in direct competition with one of the other businessmen, Nat Strong, as well. After 1910, Foster renamed his team the Chicago American Giants to do it. And eventually, and during that same year, 1910, J.L. Wilkinson started a traveling team called the All Nations, and that team would eventually become one of the most popular teams of the entire black baseball world, the Kansas City Monarchs. Then we skip to 1917 in World War I, and when America entered the First World War, a lot of the defense plants needed manpower. So this accelerated the migration of many of the blacks from the south to the north, which means a larger and more affluent fan base with more money. And because of that, Ruth Foster was more prepared to start his baseball league than ever. And this actually means Ruth Foster actually succeeds, as in 1920, they officially made their first successful black baseball league, the Negro National League, which consisted of the Cuban American Giants, Chicago Giants, the Cuban Stars, the Dayton Marcos, Detroit Stars, the Indianapolis ABCs, the Kansas City Monarchs, and the St. Louis Giants. And as a result of that successful thing, the 1920s was considered to be the golden age of black baseball. As there were multiple championships, in fact, the first such championship was the Indianapolis ABCs won their very first ever championship as well, and that was led by Oscar Charleston. In fact, the 1920s was a great golden age. The height of it was during the 1925 season as well. And as a result, however, that golden age didn't last forever for black baseball, as the Great Depression happened. And thanks to the Great Depression, the economy really worsened, and that caused the Negro National League to be folded after the 1931 season. However, that was not, and it seemed like that black baseball was going to be forgotten, like usual. But that did not actually happen. That's because of one new team came to the mix, the Homestead Grays, and they contain some of the greatest baseball players ever. And I'm not bluffing when I actually mean greatest baseball players. They include players including some of the greatest baseball players to ever play the game as well. And thanks to him, the interest in black baseball rose once again. And thanks to it, a new Negro League was actually made, called the Negro American League. And this brought back his Grays, the Monarchs, and other teams, and eventually became more popular than ever back. However, and then World War II, in fact, just like Major League Baseball, the black baseball leagues lost a lot of star players due to the fact that, just like the major leagues, they lost their own stars too. And that included Buck O'Neil, Buck O'Neil, Monte Urban, Larry Doby, Hank Thompson, Joe Green, and Willie Brown all served in for their country. In fact, World War II was pretty good for most of the black baseball world. However, eventually all things have to decline, and this was pretty obvious. They declined during the 1950s after the integration of Jackie Robinson back in 1942. This sparked the end of the Negro Leagues. With Jackie Robinson integrating, it was not before long that other black players started joining the major leagues. Roy Campanella, Elston Howard, Henry Aaron, and all those top players went to the major leagues. And due to the fact, and because the fact Major League Baseball took a lot of the black players away from the black baseball leagues, it would eventually collapse as the last Negro League was folded in 1958. And the last team still playing was the Indianapolis Clowns in 1966. But while they continued to play exhibition games in the 80s, the Clowns were just a sideshow. They were just a humorous sideshow rather than competitive sport. However, hey there, Martel. You just covered that up pretty good. But despite that, though, the legacy of these leagues are massive. As some of the greatest players to ever play the sport, including Henry Aaron, Satchel Paige, and Josh Gibson, have all played in these leagues. And their legacy is so massive, it's not funny. Now we get to the legends, and of those 35 players, there are a lot of them that needs to be covered, and there is a lot of them because these baseball leagues are so important that it's not fun. There are so many iconic players that if I would include them, there is so many to pick. So the number one player I want to think about putting as a legend is Rube Foster. Now, Rube Foster, for those who, I think I've already said, he was the one who founded the National League, the Black Baseball National League. Well, he was considered to also be one of the best pitchers in the 1900s of those leagues as well. But like I said, his greatest contributions are the founding of the Chicago American Giants and the organization of the first successful Black Baseball League. These contributions led him to be known as the father of Black baseball. And that's very important. And that's a really important distinction considering that there wasn't a lot of opportunities for Black baseball players to do extremely well. And yet, he was one of the few to actually do this. Now, he got his nickname Leader in Life. Now, he was born in Calvert, Texas in 1879. And eventually, he was very well known for his, in fact, apparently, there was a legend that revolves around him too, that John McGraw actually hired Foster to teach the young Christy Mathewson the screwball. However, many historians cast a doubt in this history, but that's for us to really kind of know. But Rube Foster's legacy is massive, as he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1981, and he was the first representative elected as a pioneer or executive. And he even has his own face on the postage stamps in 2009. So, he had a very major impact on the sport, despite the fact that not even skin color can hold him down from being successful. The next player is probably the most famous player of those leagues, and someone I've already covered in Cleveland. But this guy right here is Satchel Paige, considered by many to be one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and definitely the most famous and successful player from the Black Baseball Leagues. Apparently, there are some stories that he would actually have infielders sit down behind him, and then he routinely strike out the side every time. Now, Satchel Paige made his Major League debut, get this, at the age of 42. 42. It is still the oldest debutant in Major League history. And on top of this, in his last Major League game he played, he was 59 years old. I mean, that's pretty insane to say the least about Satchel Paige. Now, Satchel Paige was known for having a really expansive pitching repertoire. He had a lot of different variety in the pitches he threw, and that included his curveball. He had a great curveball, and he had a really nice fastball as well. And he can always change his arm angle a bit too, which made him extremely dangerous for throwing. In fact, he had because of his vast wide range of repertoire, he had an extremely long career. Now, if you include both his stats from the Black Baseball Leagues and the Major League Baseball, he had a career 180, 18 and 80 record. He had an ERA of 2.70 and 1,438 strikeouts. Now, this man was a two-time Major League All-Star, a six-time Black Negro League All-Star, and he was both a World Series and Black Baseball World Series champion, which is extremely impressive. And this leads us to one of the great what-ifs. If Satchel Paige would have been in the leagues even earlier, I think he would still be a Hall of Famer even if he played in the major leagues his whole career. In fact, Satchel Paige was so good that in 1971, he was the first electee of the Black Baseball of the Negro League Committee to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which actually cemented his status as one of the greatest to ever play baseball. And I mean, the fact he was still a two-time Major League All-Star into his 40s, I mean, is still extremely impressive. He was that good, and his legacy on the sport is just massive. In fact, not only in 1999, Paige was actually 19th on Sporting News list of the 100 greatest baseball players, and he was nominated as a finalist for the Major League All-Century team, which is extremely impressive to say the least, especially coming from someone who joined the Major Leagues back at the age of 42. And basically, his career went from 1926 until his final game in '65, which is it's just insane. Satchel Paige is an all-time great legend, that's for sure. The next player is Buck Leonard. Now, Buck Leonard is the first baseman of the Homestead Grays, one of the most legendary teams from 1934 to 1950. He was known for his quick bat, and a Hall of Fame catcher, Roy Campanella, once said, "You could put a fastball in a shotgun, and you still couldn't shoot it by him because he would probably hit it." Now, Buck Leonard was actually, and he was often paired up with another great slugger we'll talk about soon, Josh Gibson. However, despite all this, he never played the game in the major leagues. He declined an offer in 1952 because he felt he was a bit too old. But throughout his career, he was an amazing hitter. In fact, in terms of his statistics, this man was a career .345 hitter with 724 hits, 95 home runs, and 534 RBIs. And I know a lot of you thinking, Viper, those stats don't look impressive, but you gotta consider they played way less games in the major leagues. Sometimes they play up to like 60 games a year, while Major League Baseball is 154, so that's why those stats don't seem nearly as impressive. But Buck Leonard was absolutely dominant, though. In fact, he was a 13-time All-Star for the Black Baseball League and a 3-time World Series champion for the Black Baseball League, which is just insane. In 1999, he was ranked 47th on the Sporting News list of the 100 greatest baseball players, and he was nominated as a finalist for the All-Century team, despite the fact he never played in the major leagues, which I think probably tells you he is an all-time great. Now, the other thing about Buck Leonard is that he also had a managing career in the Mexican League. Yes. It turns out there would be quite a few of these black baseball players that actually played in the Mexican League because they integrated much earlier than the major leagues. And he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1972 alongside Josh Gibson. And I guess speaking of this, we get to the next player, Cool Papa Bell. Now, James Cool Papa Bell is one of the fastest players in baseball history. He was very, very fast. Like, there were stories that Cool Papa Bell was able to steal. Pitchers tried to avoid walk because he was able to steal both second and third base. And there were one time, and there was actually, his legacy was so impressive that his speed made him a nightmare to deal with. And even though he didn't have a great arm, that speed made him an amazing player. Now, his nickname was interesting, though. So, he earned that nickname in his first season in 1922, as he was referred to as Cool, as he struck out Oscar Charleston, one of the star players of the leagues, and then they added Papa because it just sounded better, and it gave him one of the coolest nicknames of the entire sport. But his offense was so good that, I mean, he could run baseball. Now, he played in the sport from 1922 to 1942, not just in the Black Baseball Leagues, but also in the Mexican League as well, which meant he had quite the journeyman career. Now, Cool Papa Bell was a .325 hitter. He had 57 home runs, 1,534 hits, and 593 runs batted in. He was a two-time World Series champion and an 8-time All-Star. Now, the fun fact about him is that since he was born in Starkville, Mississippi, on May 13, 2021, Mississippi State unveiled the Cool Papa Bell Plaza and mural honoring his life and accomplishments at Dual Noble Field in Starkville, Mississippi, which gave him a pretty cool legacy to say for the least. Definitely a very deserving legacy for one of baseball's all-time great players. Also, in addition to this as well, he also had a clean life. In fact, he never smoked, drank alcohol, or even said a cuss word. He had a clean lifestyle. And in Ken Bird's baseball, he was so fast that apparently he once scored from first on a sacrifice bunt, which was just insane. His speed was just out off the charts. I mean, I wonder how many stolen bases he could have gotten if he played in the major leagues. Now I gotta talk about probably the greatest slugger of all time, and one of baseball's all-time greatest power hitters, Josh Gibson. Now, Josh Gibson is widely considered by baseball historians as one of the greatest power hitters of all time. Some accounts say he hit over 800 home runs, but the official statistics are kind of hard to differentiate, and that's due to the fact that statistics weren't really kept very well during the Black Baseball League because, thanks to segregation stuff, people kind of forget that they existed. But Gibson was so good at hitting home runs and being a power slugger, he was often known as the Black Babe Ruth. In fact, some people even say that Babe Ruth was the white Josh Gibson, and I'm not kidding, that's actually the truth. Josh Gibson was a major part of the Homestead Grays team, and he was just amazing. I mean, just imagine him in the major leagues, how ridiculous of a hitter he was. Now, Gibson was a career .359 hitter with a slugging percentage of 0.648 and 238 home runs. Now, this man was also a major all-star, as this man was a 12-time all-star and a 2-time champion as well. Unfortunately, he did pass away at age 35 due to him having a coma, and he had to live with, and he died of a stroke at 47. But his legacy is still massive, as he went into the Hall of Fame in 1972, and he was ranked 18th of the top 100 greatest players of all time, the highest ranking of anyone that played all or most of their career in the Black Baseball League. And he was a finalist for the All-Century team as well. So his legacy is unbelievably huge. And basically the point I'm trying to get at is that if these players ever play in the major leagues, I mean, more people would absolutely know him. And the final player is Oscar Charleston. Now, he was born in Indianapolis, and unbelievably, he spent 43 seasons of professional baseball as one of the greatest hitters of all time. Known as being one of the most renowned players of his era, he was recognized as a powerful, hard-hitting slugger, his speed as a base runner, and as a top outfielder as well. Now, Oscar Charleston has a very long history as well. Originally, in 1912, he lied about his age to be in the U.S. Army, and he quickly became to the 24th Infantry Regiment and served in the Philippines. And then he was actually involved as a player manager for multiple different teams from 1915 all the way as a player manager to 1954. Now, if you record his major league statistics, though, he had an insane legacy. Now he was known as a career 364 hitter, which actually puts him second all time behind Ty Cobb with 143 home runs and a slugging percentage of .615. They didn't really keep the RBI statistics like in real life. And he was a 3-time All-Star selection as well, which is actually awesome as well. In addition to spending 43 years of professional baseball, he also spent 9 winter seasons in Cuba and in multiple exhibition games against white major leaguers as well. In fact, Oscar Charleston was a huge piece in recruiting black baseball players such as Roy Campanella, and he helped him integrate into the major leagues. And his legacy is pretty massive, as according to Bill James, who is a famed baseball historian, he was one of the game's best all-time center fielders, and he even ranked him 4th all-time behind Ruth Wagner and Willie Mays. In addition, many historians even say he might be the greatest all-around black league baseball player, and one of the greatest to ever play the sport. Definitely, without a doubt, he is one of the all-time greats to ever play the game. In fact, his observers often compared his play to Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, and Babe Ruth. And mind you, those are just Major League legends. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is part 1 of the slideshow. So the important way I'm going to take away from this is the fact that if it wasn't for racial segregation and all this, these players would have been in the major leagues, and it would have made the major leagues even more fun to watch. I mean, just imagine Satchel Paige thrown against Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio, or seeing Josh Gibson slug against Walter Johnson, or Smokey Joe Williams, one of the other players that barely missed the cut, going against Ty Cobb. It's going to be absolutely awesome. People don't realize just how awesome these black baseball players are. Bartell's in the chat. Good to see you, man. So we just covered the black baseball leagues. I'm going to go ahead and try to get to our first destination. 1 Hotel 3. We should be getting there pretty good. As well. So guys, this is the VL3. Let me get to drone cam. But yeah, I think it's really important to learn that the world of black baseball is something that way too many people come out. And there's a really awesome documentary from PBS Kansas City, and it talks about the professional baseball league that used to exist for all those decades. So I'm hoping that you all have. I want to ask you guys in the chat, how's your weekend been? I know that Allison Johnson yesterday did her next leg of her Amy Johnson flight, and I wanted to know how you're all been doing. So we should try and get back to our. Yeah, I'm keeping this thing relatively stable and low to the ground. So we're just flying across. I was practicing landings yesterday evening. Nice. Yeah, practicing landings is definitely very important to practice your all's landings and to do it properly. I know it's not easy to land when you're starting out. That's always a bit of a difficult part. But, I mean, once you get used to it, it becomes second nature to you. What's your weekend so far? My weekend's pretty good. Um, I just finished up everything I needed to yesterday, and I also flew with Foxtrot yesterday. I flew over touring Des Moines, Iowa, one of the locations of Splasher 6, one of my good followers and content creators. So, so I see. So I think that's very important. I think this is a really good aircraft. It's flying really, really smooth. Let's see how far we are from the airport. Let me pull up my nav map, make sure I don't forget. So according to my nav map, we should be around 15 nautical miles away. This aircraft is pretty quick, so getting to the airport wouldn't be difficult. And there's Martel, there you are in the air. Mm-hmm. Can you see me? That's interesting. I can't see you. Yeah, yeah, I can see you. You're up there. Like I said, I'm hoping this gets fixed in the next World Update. I'm really hoping they get it fixed because that's a major issue. In the sense, that's a very big issue. So I'm hoping that after we get done, we rate ailerons in the wind. But that really depends on how this stream would go. We're not far from it, so we're just going to go ahead. Let me pull up my nav app again. We should be landing straight ahead at runway 27. We should just land straight ahead. Now, thankfully, landing with this thing isn't going to be an issue. this is very nice scenery right here. It's very, very nice in Missouri. Now, if you go further south in southwest Missouri, you get near the Ozarks, and that's a very nice area to fly. You get into a really nice area to fly. But even now, this is really nice. I got something fun. Let's put this. Ah, look at that. Air on roll. So we should get to our first stop here. Let me pull this up. We're almost at our first stop here, State Technical College. We're going to be landing on runway 27. Now, this area is known for the State Technical College of Missouri. And it's located outside of Lynn, Missouri. The small town. Now, the State Technical College of Missouri, or known as State Tech, is founded in 1961 in Lynn. It has an enrollment of 1,483 students as a trade school, and that includes the main campus is within 11 academic buildings with a college-style student housing, activity center, and yes, an airport, and that's where we're going to be visiting here. 95% of the space uses geothermal energy for heating and cooling. The Ozarks is a nice area. I've been to Branson once. Oh yeah, I've been to Branson too. Branson's beautiful. I went to the theme park in the area. Silver Dollar City's where I went to. It's a really nice theme park. Oh, I gotta change. I'm gonna have to change my fuel tanks. Okay, I got it back. Okay, I had a fuel tank issue. Yeah, look how speedy this thing is. This thing is so fast. Now, actually, Martel, when it gets to September and early October, I'm gonna probably do one of my Fridays. I was thinking about October 1st. I'm gonna be doing a bush flight series where we're gonna go to through the Ozarks, and we're gonna be visiting Arkansas in honor of the air competition that'll be held this year. There's the airport out here. We're gonna go ahead and press our landing gear. Gonna go ahead and reduce. I'm gonna activate the first stage of flaps. That should get us slowed down. Second stage of flaps. The most terrifying thing about this plane is this plane has a disgustingly short landing distance. I know this isn't a dedicated bush plane, but you can land this on some rough airstrips. You'd be quite surprised. The same thing goes with the CTSL and the Virus. All of them have ridiculous STOL capabilities, despite the fact they're not bush planes, per se. if we should land. This should be a really easy landing for this plane. Look at that. That is a pretty smooth landing, if you ask me. I probably should tax this out of the way. Yeah, this plane is frighteningly easy to land and easy to take off. Yeah, I can definitely see why God Gravel made this made the Vertigo, because it's a beautiful plane. Mm. And there's Martel down in the Bonanza. I believe you got something else actually, and I don't have it. So that goes into our next thing. So for the next thing, we're gonna be going towards. So we're gonna go ahead and get back to the cockpit for a bit. Yeah, this is the VL3. I think because you disappeared, um, I think you got a different livery than mine. I bet that's probably the reason. So we're gonna get back on the runway for a bit. But yeah, this is a really nice area to fly over. Well, okay, I think we're about ready to go out. But let's do this. Look at this, the parking brake couldn't even stop this thing. That's up. And look at this, and we're already off because, yes, this thing is a stall plane. Go figure. And this thing accelerates like a banshee. This thing is just awesome. This thing flies like a beaut. It isn't the fastest plane at speed. So let's get to our next destination here. So we're gonna be heading to Jefferson City for a bit. Then we'll fly to Columbia for the next stop, and then we'll be heading to Sedalia. So that would be our plan for this for right now. So we're going to be heading to Jefferson City first. Now this is the capital of the state of Missouri, and the fifth largest city in the state. The only ones larger, I believe, are um, Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, and Columbia are the only ones bigger. Now the city is named after Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States of America. It is located in a region known as Mid-Missouri. Now, notable landmarks of Jefferson City include the Missouri State Penitentiary, the Runge National Conservation Center, and the Lewis and Clark Monument Trailhead Plaza. Also, it's home to Lincoln University as well. Now, some notable people from Jefferson City include one of the most famous female basketball players, Maya Moore, Jack Kilby, and Alphonso Boone, who was a descendant of the famous um, pioneer. So definitely pretty interesting about Jefferson City. Now, Columbia is the fourth most populous city in the state of Missouri, and is known as a Midwestern college town. Well, because it's home to the University of Missouri, it was founded in 1821 and is nicknamed the Athens of Missouri. Now, landmarks include the University of Missouri, Rock Memorial State Park, and Faurot Field, the football stadium of the University of Missouri. Notable people include Bud Walton, who became the founder of Walmart, Carl Edwards, a NASCAR driver, and Henry Kirkland, who is the first black faculty member of the University of Missouri. So definitely some pretty interesting people to think about. We'll be getting on our way. So now we're going to talk about one of the other things we're going to mention about. So one of the things I will mention about is the Kansas City Monarchs. Now this was one of the most famous black baseball teams of all time. In fact, they were the longest lasting team in the black baseball leagues, as they played professional baseball from 1920 to 1965. They were the first team in professional baseball history to install night lighting for games. In 1930, a full four years before any other Major League Baseball team, before any other team in the Major Leagues, and before integration happened, they won 10 championships. Now, they played games at Municipal Stadium in Kansas City and produced more Major League players than any other franchise, including Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, and Elston Howard, just say for the least. And they're still honored today. Sometimes the Kansas City Royals wear their throwback to the Monarch era. In fact, originally the Monarchs were supposed to be the Royals were supposed to be named the Monarchs. Funnily enough, but that never happened. They said they became the Royals. And did you know, in 2021, the Monarchs name was actually revived by a Kansas minor league team known as the Kansas City T-Bones, and this was in partnership with the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. And now the Monarchs name is back in Kansas City, which I think is really cool to see the Monarchs name actually officially return. It's a great way to honor an old team. Sure. We're going to be heading to Jefferson City now, so we're going to turn this off for a bit. We should get in here. This is, like I said, pretty smooth flying. We're flying around 120 knots. I forgot to also refuel. Whoa. I think Jefferson City has photogrammetry, so we should be visiting the Missouri State Capitol. Whoa. I think my center of gravity's been altered. So there's Jefferson City, the capital. There's the state capitol. See, this place actually has photogrammetry, which is pretty cool. I should have tested out the plane before. Yep. Yeah, this plane can be quite fast when you want this thing to be. Right on the banks of the Missouri River. So there is Jefferson City in photogrammetry. Look out, we don't want to run over any of the buildings. There is the state capitol across the river. There's the state capitol. And now, once we cross through Jefferson City, we're going to be heading to Columbia for a bit. So, after the Monarchs, we're going to talk about the Kansas City Royals for a bit. Now, the Kansas City Royals actually came to the league in 1969, and right now they play in the American League Central Division. Now, the Royals, in their long-time history, since 1969, are actually won 2 World Series championships in 1985 and 2015, 4 American League pennants in 1980, 85, 2014, and 2015, and they have 7 division championships. Most of those were won in the 1980s. Now, they currently play at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. They previously played in Municipal Stadium in KC as well. And the team colors are actually quite cool. Royal blue is their main color. But their secondary color is gold, then powder blue, yes, light blue, and white. Now the nickname Royals actually pays homage to the American Royal, which is a famed livestock show um, that has been held here in Kansas City for well over 100+ years. In fact, it's been in Kansas City since 1899, as well as the identical name of two black baseball teams that played in the first half of the century, which is really cool. Plus, it's related to the Monarchs name. It also fits into a theme with the sports teams in Kansas City. Their mascot is Slugger, which is an anamorphic lion with a crown, as well. Now, when the Athletics first moved out of Kansas City in 1967, Senator Stuart Simmigan of Missouri threatened to introduce legislation removing baseball's antitrust exemption unless the city was granted a team. And the reason for that is that professional baseball in Kansas City has been around since 1883. So it's not like that Kansas City doesn't have baseball history, it actually has a pretty long one. The Major League Baseball complied, and professional baseball returned back to Kansas City in 1969 as the Royals. They moved into the old Municipal Stadium, and in their first season, they went 69-93 in their first season in the majors. It was led by AL Rookie of the Year winner Lou Piniella, who I also know is quite a manager too. However, Cedric Tallez quickly built the team throughout the 1970s for a number of trades. In 1971, the team had its first ever winning season, thanks to players like Emils Otis and such. In 1973, the Royals moved into the brand new Kauffman Stadium and hosted its first All-Star game, but the Royals, though, continued to build pieces for a great team. In 1979, Whitey Herzog replaced Jack McKeenan as manager, and the Royals quickly became the dominant franchise in the American League West, thanks to players like Hal McRae, Frank White, and especially George Brett. And trust me, George Brett, I'll talk about Brett for a bit. After a second place 91-win season, they won 3 state division championships from 76 to 78, but in all 3 of those appearances, they lost to the New York Yankees. And after a second place finish in 1979, Herzog was fired and replaced by Jim Frey. And this change actually leads to a new season. In 1980, thanks to an MVP season from George Brett, aka the greatest Kansas City Royal to ever play the game, the Royals finally beat the Yankees in the championship series to advance to their first ever World Series against the Phillies, but they came up short in the 1980 World Series as the Phillies beat the Royals. In 1983, the Royals reached second in the American League West, behind the White Sox that year, which had an unbelievable season. But the season was most well known for the Royals. It was the Pine Tar game. Now, apparently in that game versus the Yankees, George Brett hit a home run that went in the stands. However, the Yankees officials wanted to check on the bat, and there was a massive amount of pine tar on those baseball bats. And George Brett was absolutely furious for that. That was one of the most iconic moments in Royals history. Now, in '84, the Royals once again won the American League West, but the eventual world champion Tigers swept them. But finally, things start to finally turn around in 1985, as they won their second American League pennant in '85 and faced the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. And after 7 games, at long last, the Royals finally won a championship, beating out the Cardinals. And one of the moments of that series was in Game 6 of that World Series when one of the umpires got the wrong call, and the runner was called safe instead of out, and that led to the Royals taking Game 6 and then eventually taking Game 7 of that series. But they managed to win their first championship. Now, despite the fact the Royals maintain a reputation as one of the top teams in the West, they still haven't quite reached the heights of 1985. And after a failed 1990 season, they fell out of contention for the rest of the decade. And then, when Ewing Kauffman died, the team owner, David Glass bought the team for $96 million and kept the team in Kansas City, thankfully. However, despite that, though, they still continued losing. And even though in 2003, Tony Pena guided the Royals to their first winning record since 1994 as they went 83-79, but they still got a long way to go to catch up to the rest of the teams in that division. And they continue to still lose, but not all seems bad for the Royals in the 2000s. From 2004 to 2012, they posted 9 straight losing records, the longest such streak in team history. So in 2012, they traded with the Tampa Bay Rays for pitchers James Shields and Wade Davis. And Wade Davis and James Shields were big pieces for the Royals' resurgence in the early 2010s. In 2013, they had their first winning season since 2003. In 2014, not only did they make it to the postseason for the first time since '85, they won their 3rd American League pennant as a wild card. However, they faced the Giants in that World Series, and since it was an even year, the Giants beat the Royals in 7 games, which was a pretty good World Series all around. But 2015, things would finally be their way. They won their first division championship since 1985 as the Royals reached the World Series once again against the Mets, and they beat the Mets in 5 games for championship number 2. And then for the rest of the decade, the Royals slowly declined, but they started rebuilding for the future, and their future looks kind of bright to me. Especially with players like Whit Merrifield. Oh, have a CTD. Oh, no. Oh, no, Martel, no. Not like this. Hashtag not like this. Hashtag no, not like this. So the Kansas City Royals definitely have a few major icons. So for the icons, I'll be talking about them as soon after we get done going through Columbia, Missouri. We're gonna be we're gonna be heading towards the campus pretty soon. So right now we see the University of Missouri right in front of us. So we should see Columbia. So let's pull this up for a bit. So now we're in the area. So there is Mizzou Arena right in front of us. That is where the basketball program plays. Now Faurot Field's right here. Whoops. But right behind us, there's Faurot Field. That is home of the Missouri Tigers football team. The zoo. If this was college football, we would probably go to the college campus. And then we're going to be heading towards, now we're going to be heading towards Sadala for our second stop of the trip. Yeah, you can actually change the autopilot stuff. The detail is still insane. Yeah, the details are insane. I gotta agree with you. So many great details. as well. So now we're going to get back to this thing now. Let me go ahead and put my face back. So now we're going to get to the next section, the Royals icons. Now the Royals, despite being a franchise from 1969, do have a few icons, including 3 retired numbers and many members of the Kansas City Royal Hall of Famers. But I'm mainly going to count for the players who mainly played for the Royals for their franchise history. Next, first is the franchise's first star player, Amos Otis, who originally played for the Mets, but since he became a Royal, he quickly became a young star for the team and an integral part of the Royals' dominance of the American League West throughout the late 70s and early 80s. Now, his speed made him a very good glove at outfield, and he was a solid hitter, while not the greatest, but a pretty solid one. Otis was a .277 hitter with 193 home runs and 1,007 RBIs. He was a 5-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover, and the 1971 Stolen Base leader. And he finished among the Royals' all-time leaders in hits, home runs, runs scored, stolen bases, and games played when he retired from the league. Quite as well. And he made quite the impact early in his career, and he still made a big part of Kansas City history. So the next player on my list I want to mention is Frank White. He's one of 2 Royals to have their number retired, and he played for the Royals from 1973 to 1990 in all of his seasons with the team. He's the best second baseman in franchise history. He was known for being a great defender, and his offense, while it wasn't great early in his career, improved later on in his career. He played over 1,900 games with fellow teammate George Brett. And I'll get to Brett next after this. Frank White was a 5-time All-Star, an 8-time Gold Glover, and he even had a Silver Slugger in 1986. And I know a lot of people think he had to replace Cookie Rojas, but I think he more than proved it. Now the main Royal I want to talk about. The one who stands above everyone else, George Brett. He spent all 27 seasons with the Kansas City Royals from 1973 to 1993. And he not only stood apart as not only the greatest Kansas City Royal of all time, but one of the all-time great third basemen. As one of the great hitters of the league, he is the only player in Major League history to win the batting title in 3 different decades, which is pretty incredible. He won 3 batting champions, 1973, 1980, and 1990. I think those are his batting champions. But he won 3 different decades. He was a career .306 hitter with 3,154 hits, 317 home runs, and 1,596 RBIs. In addition to those 3 batting champions, he was a 13-time All-Star, the 1980 American League MVP. He got a Gold Glove back in '85, and he also had 3 Silver Sluggers to put his name on the credit. George Brett, in fact, is only one of 4 players to have 3,000 hits, 300 home runs, and a career .300 batting average, making him only one of 4 to ever do it. The only 3 other players to go alongside him are Henry Aaron, Willie Mays, and Stan Musial, and those are all some of the greatest players of all time, and that makes him one of the all-time greats. He currently still serves for the Royals as a vice president of baseball operations for the Kansas City Royals, and in addition to this, he was also the person credited with the Mendoza line, which is used to represent a subpar batting average below 200. As well, then we get to Bryce Saberhagen. Bryce Saberhagen is the best, in my opinion, one of the top pitchers in Royals history. He was a huge piece of that 1985 team that won the World Series. Now, he had some inconsistencies. Odd years, Saberhagen was great. On off and even number of years, he does not have great years of those, which kind of make him kind of inconsistent. But he still was a great pitcher for the Royals and still key. Now, he had a 167 and 117 record, with a 3.34 ERA and 1,715 strikeouts. Saberhagen was a three-time All-Star. He twice won the American League Cy Young Award. He was the MVP of the 1985 World Series and the 1989 wins and ERA leader. So definitely an overall solid pitcher. And definitely someone that I think a lot of people kind of underestimate. But Bret Saberhagen had a very good career in the major leagues. The next player on my list is Dan Quisenberry. Now, Dan Quisenberry is quite unique, as he's one of baseball's best relievers in the 1980s. And I'm surprised Quisenberry's not in the Hall of Fame. I'm hoping he makes it someday, because he actually had a great career. But one of the things that made Quisenberry unique is he actually had a submarine-style pitching. Unlike most pitchers who pitch overhand like this, he pitched with this, and that is a very different way to pitch that some people are going to have a really hard time trying to hit off of. But he was extremely effective in the major leagues. His 244 saves at the time was 6th most in major league history. He had a 56 and 246 career record with a 2.6 ERA and 379 strikeouts. He was a 3-time Major League All-Star, 5 times was the AL Reliever of the Year, and 5 times led the American League in saves. And here's a fun fact someone didn't know. Quisenberry had the lowest walk rate per inning of any pitcher in the Major League since the 1920s. That means he didn't walk very many people, and that means less people on base, the more likely you're going to win. The next player on the list is Mike Sweeney. Now, he emerged as the best player of the Royals during the early 2000s. In this prime, he was a solid hitter with contact and power. Now, he had a career 297 average with 215 home runs and 909 RBIs. And he was a 5-time All-Star for the Royals, alongside being the team captain from 2003 to 2007. Now, the Royals those years were not very good, but Sweeney was definitely the best player on that team, and he was very, very important for the franchise during those losing stretches. And the last player, the most recent one, he's still playing for the Royals now, and I still think he is one of the best players in franchise history. I'm talking about Salvador Perez. Not only do I think he's the best catcher in franchise history, I think he's already one of the top players in team history, too. He's already really good. His offensive defense had made him one of the best catchers in the league for many years. Some people even consider him to be the best catcher in the league. And I definitely think he could be. Now, Perez has a career 270 average with 192 home runs and 634 RBIs. Now, Salvador Perez is currently a 7-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, and a 3-time Silver Slugger. But he can definitely get more of these, especially with his career being later down on the line. I think Perez is only going to have even more accomplishments later on. But I really do think Perez is absolutely a star for the Royals. And I think he's going to be he's going to be one of the top players for years to come. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of his career if he stayed in Kansas City. He would be, I would put him down as probably the number 2 Royal of all time behind Brett. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he already is number 2 behind them. He was even the most valuable player of the 2015 World Series as well. So, definitely a very accomplished player, and he can do quite a lot for your team. So, we're going to get to our next destination, Sadala Memorial Airport. Now, I did look up some things about Sadala. Now, Sadala was most well known for having one of the largest music festivals of all time. Believe it or not. In 1974, there was a rock festival happening. It was actually one of the festivals, the Ozark Music Festival, one of the largest, but actually one of the least remembered festivals of the 1970s. Apparently attendance was estimated between 160,000 and 350,000 people reached the festival. It includes some big name bands include Aerosmith, the Eagles, Blue Oyster Cult, Leonard Skinner, REO Speedwagon and Bob Seger all were performed at the festival. Apparently this festival made Woodstock look tame in comparison. It was just absolutely crazy. So we're gonna be landing on runway. If you guys don't mind, we should be landing on runway. Yeah, runway 23. We should make the landing there. Let me pull up my nav map to know where we're getting. We're not far. We're not too far from the airport. So we should be landing right there. So we're not very far off of the airport. There's some bit of the planes and such. So we're near the airport. I think we're about to land. So looking at this, we should probably land at runway, yeah, 23. Should be easy landing. Also, addition, Sedalia is also the location of the State Fair of Missouri. It is actually located here. It's been that way for decades. In fact, it's been here since 1901. Yep, you keep getting CTs. I'll try after dinner. I'll be back. No worries, Martel. No worries, man. No worries. Here's the airport down below. I'm gonna go ahead and lower my power, put on the lane, turn on the flaps, just to slow down this plane a bit. Boop, boom. Let's see. We almost got the landing. This should be really smooth. This should be easy. This should be an easy descent. I mean, this thing has a pretty low stall speed. Playing this thing should be easy, and this thing has almost no. And this should be stopped really easy. And this baby is stopped quite easily. Good. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing parked. I'm going to take a quick bio break before we get back. So I'll be back in just in 2-3 minutes. So I have some pretty nice jazz music to go along with the thing. So I'll be right back, everyone. Hey guys, I'm back. I had a quick bar break, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and get this flying started. So we're gonna be heading to Kansas City for our final stop. We're going to visit we're gonna go visit Kauffman Stadium, the Black Baseball League Museum, and the former Municipal Stadium site as well. There's also the National World War I Museum as well. So we're going to go ahead and get that thing moving. Good to see you, USAPR1. Good to see you in the chat. Welcome. Hello again to everyone. Chat down here's downtown Sedalia. What airport did I just leave? I left from KDMO. KDMO for all. Welcome to the chat. I just had a quick bob work. Now I'm back. Yep. I'm taking the VL3. I haven't took this plane yet for the series, so this would be a first for the series. So just join a quick cruise flight. So now the destination we're going to be going to for the final leg is here in Kansas City. Actually, will be our final leg of the trip. Kansas City, Missouri, the largest city in the state. Actually, not St. Louis, but KC. It's nicknamed the Heart of America. It's also nicknamed the City of Fountains due to the fact there's tons of water fountains in Kansas City. Now, it was founded in the 1830s and is comprised of several major neighborhoods, and some of those neighborhoods, and not including There are quite a few major neighborhoods in the city as well. And it's divided by a couple of different neighborhoods. That being the Country Club Plaza District, the 18 and Fine District, which is the cradle of Kansas City jazz. The Country Club Plaza features Spanish-style architecture. What is this? Dangerous Fear has just followed. Thank you. I believe the city's part of Missouri. Yep, there's also a part of the city in Kansas, actually, because it was divided by the Missouri River. But Dangerous Fear has followed. Thank you so much for the follow, man. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So, Kansas City is also known as the Crossroad Arts District, which is home to lots of art districts. The Westport District contains restaurants, nightlife options, the Power and Light District, the Rivermark District, the Crown Center, which was developed by Hallmark itself, and finally Swope Park, which features in Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is also known for a lot of different cultural traditions here, and this city is proud of all of its traditions. Jazz, it was a major deal in the 1930s. While New Orleans was the birthplace of jazz, it greatly grew up in Kansas City. In fact, it had a lot of iconic musicians itself. Puddle of Mudd, Tech Nine, Shiner, and more have actually originated in Kansas City. In fact, Kansas City is such an important city for music that in 2018, UNESCO named Kansas City as a city of music. The only city in the U.S. with that distinction. Not New Orleans, not New York, not Chicago, not L.A., but Kansas City. On top of this as well, Kansas City is also known for barbecue. Kansas City style barbecue is a classic of the Kansas City cityscape. And it's been around since 1921, where Henry Perry opened up his first barbecue stand. And Kansas City style barbecue is an American classic. And finally, the Kansas City Royals are also classic for sports. The people of Kansas City love their sports teams, not just the Royals, but the Chiefs. But the Chiefs have been a massive city favorite for decades. And we'll be visiting Arrowhead Stadium as well. Now, some notable landmarks outside of Kauffman Stadium. Arrowhead Stadium is right next to it. There's the Union Station, located in the city. The National World War I Museum is in the city. And finally, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is located here in Kansas City. And some notable people, but not including Casey Stengel, the legendary manager of the Yankees for the 40s and 50s. Don Cheadle, one of the more well-known actors and most well-known for his role as War Machine in the Marvel films. And Tom Watson, one of the greatest golfers of all time. In addition to this as well, but there are way more people from around the city as well. So yes, Kansas City is a classic city. It's truly an all-American city when you can think about it. It's truly an all-around classic city. Yeah, KC definitely is very nice. It's on the banks of the Missouri River. Now, I've been to Kansas City quite a few times with Sim. One of the first ones we went is with Colonel Fork. We went to the Kansas Speedway in all the way in Kansas City, Kansas. We're still about 25, 30 nautical miles away. So there are some more Kansas City facts I probably want to know. One of the more important things about Kansas City is one of the more interesting things about Kansas City is the nicknames. It's often abbreviated as KCMO. Residents are known as Kansas Cityans and such. In fact, this city has more boulevards than any other city in the world except for Paris, and has been called Paris of the Plains. In addition, soccer is extremely popular, or association football is very popular in Kansas City. Sporting KC, after all, Kansas City is Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, Kansas, is actually the home stadium of the U.S. men's national team, and it's led to Kansas City being called the soccer capital of America. As well. In addition to the three people I mentioned, there are quite a few other people known in Kansas City. Walt Disney was actually been around Kansas City. In fact, his company, Walt Disney, actually he got his start in Kansas City, believe it or not. Walt Disney actually lived in Kansas City for a few years. And in fact, he started his first animation company called the Lavogram Studio. And in fact, he designed Mickey Mouse in Kansas City. When the company went bankrupt, Disney himself moved to Hollywood and started his own company, the Walt Disney Company, in 1923. But Walt Disney got his start in KC, where he designed Mickey Mouse, the most iconic cartoon character of all time. And believe it or not, there's quite a few other people. Amelia Earhart was actually near Kansas City. She was born in nearby Atchison, Kansas. Was from there. Let's see. The founder of Hallmark Cards, Joyce Hall. He is from Kansas City. Where he started his company. And also Paul Rudd, who was a film director and an actor, and he produced quite a few TV series, including Paul Rudd is most known for playing Ant-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but he played in quite a few other films too. So quite a few other things from Kansas City. Just be ready to facts about the city itself. Like I said, we're not far from the city. Now, right next to Kansas City, Missouri, is Kansas City, Kansas. And that city is actually the third largest in the state of Kansas. The only bigger is Topeka. Topeka is actually the largest. The only ones larger is Wichita and Topeka are the three largest cities. Now, Kansas City, Kansas is so, and there's some notable people from the other side of Kansas City, Kansas as well. Home to quite a few major people about music and There's quite a few as well. So yeah, this is Kansas City, Kansas, which is right next to it. Very few views about the baseball hearings here. You must divine the solution. Brett, someone hit a home run that was nullified quite a few years ago. That was relating to the Pine Tar incident back in '83. There, George Brett. So let me tell you something, friends all. So George Brett in 1983 hit a home run against the Yankees to put the team in the league. So the league manager actually asked him and wanted to talk about the baseball bat. That bat looked really suspicious. The umpires and managers look at the bat closely and see if there was too much pine tar, and it turned out the bat had way too much pine tar. So they actually they nullified the home run call, and George Brett was ejected, and it eventually caused a forfeit. They eventually delayed the game, and they actually rescheduled it to a later date, and the Royals still won that game. But that was still pretty infamous moment in itself, friends all. So that kind of is how I think it. That's what happened. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. Was that was the famed pine tar incident in '83. So that's what it was. That's what happened that day. And apparently, after the game, they protested the game. Actually, let me show you something. Let me show you. So that's kind of what it is, friend all. I hope that answered the question about the pine tar thing. So I'm going to say it again. It did happen in 1983. George Brett hit a home run to give them the lead. Billy Martin, he noticed there was large amount of pine tar in the bats and requested the umpires to inspect it. And the umpires ruled that the amount of pine tar was way more than it was allowed. So they nullified Brett's home run, which made George Brett lose it. And then the Royals protested the game, saying that it was unfair. And the American League upheld the protest and allowed the game to be continued from George Brett's home run. And the game itself resumed 25 days later on August 18th, and the Royals actually won that game. It was quite. And the bat itself, actually, friend to all, if you want to know, that bat itself is actually in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame, and it's been there since 1987. So there you go, friends all. I think that probably answers your question. But no, that relates it because we're talking about the Royals, and George Brett is the all-time great Royals player. So yeah, that kind of relates to the point. So we're flying to Kansas City. We should get there pretty soon. We should be around 20 nautical miles from our first waypoint. This should be a pretty easy way to get there. can I post a link? I think only mods are allowed to post links, so I may have to put one of you's. It's actually on my Discord, friend all. If you check sports media, I actually have the incident on my Discord. If you have my Discord, I believe. Yeah, you're on my Discord, friend all. If you are on my Discord, um, it's on my sports media Discord. Um, let me go. Let me go ahead. Copy link. Um, actually, yeah, that second. Go to the second link, and there's the YouTube video. I can't play this in flight though, because that's copyright. And guess who owns the copyright, by the way, friends all? Guess who owns the copyright? Oh yeah, Major League Baseball owns it, and I'm not stupid enough to mess with Major League Baseball. No, I cannot. I'm telling you this. No, you can watch it on your own. Just don't. But I'm not taking any chance with copyrights. Okay, so now we're gonna get to our first stadium. Okay, thanks. George really goes bananas. I know, and I don't blame George Brett. George Brett has been a fierce competitor. So the first stadium we're gonna be going to is actually we're getting really close to it. I think I see. Yeah, I think I see USAPR in the skies. There you are, USAPR. I see you in the skies. Hello, hello. I see friends all here. So the first stadium we're going to go to is Kauffman Stadium. This is actually the current home of the Royals. But Kauffman Stadium was opened in 1973. It has a seating capacity of 30,000, and while it has symmetrical outfield dimensions, unlike many other stadiums that were built in the era that were multi-purpose stadiums, this was specifically designed for baseball. So unlike the other multi-purpose stadiums at the time, Kauffman Stadium actually had great seats for watching baseball. And Kauffman Stadium has changed a lot since it first opened back in '73. If yeah, old pictures. If you want to see what Kauffman Stadium originally looked like, this was what Kauffman originally looked like with the AstroTurf and all that. And I mean, it looked barren and empty in comparison to what it is now. But now, Kauffman Stadium has really transformed into a beautiful stadium. The Royals have done a great job keeping the place updated and modernized. Now, obviously, there are quite a few notable features of this ballpark. As of 2021, the Royals Hall of Fame out there in left field. Then there's the giant HD Crown Vision scoreboard, one of the most unique scoreboards in the major leagues, and definitely one of the more unique ones and recognizable. But there is one feature that really makes Kauffman Stadium really stand out, and that's the water spectacular. Now, this water fountain is privately owned, and it's around 322 feet. It goes from right center field to left center field, and it's the largest privately owned fountain in the world. And you wonder, why would Kansas City even get a fountain like this? Because KC is the city of fountains. So, I mean, why not? And this stadium is really, really cool to watch a game. It's one of the baseball's hidden crown jewels of the league. Also, right now, this is the sixth oldest stadium too, in the major leagues, and one of the oldest in the American League. I believe it could even be the second oldest American park, but I don't know about that. I think it's the second oldest in the AL now. Second or third, I think it's the third oldest behind Fenway Park and Angel Stadium. Now, some notable moments at the park include the 1985 and 2015 World Series wins, the 1973 and 2012 All-Star Games, and the call-in Game 6 of the 85 World Series are all notable moments here in Kauffman Stadium. And we should be getting you the stadium pretty soon. We should be getting here pretty soon. There's Blue Spring Lakes down there, which is pretty cool. We get through one of the lakes. As well, we should be getting by Kauffman Stadium. Then the next one after we visit Kauffman is going to be Municipal Stadium. Now, this was the original home. It was opened in 1923, and it was the home of the Royals from their inaugural season in '69 until 1972. But it was also home to the Kansas City Monarchs black baseball team from 1923 to 1954. Now, the seating capacity around this ballpark was around 35,000 spectators, and the outfield dimensions were quite unique. Left field was particularly deeper than any other parts of the stadium, 369 left, 408 in left center field. Center field's 421, 382, and 338. Now, at one point, the right field wall was actually 296 feet, and that was due to the fact that the Kansas City Athletics owner at the time, Charles Finley, wanted to shorten the fence to mock Yankee Stadium, but that did not happen though. But they couldn't keep it, so they had to revert it back to 325. And the ballpark's unique features actually come when the Oakland A's played there. Charles Finley was quite the eccentric owner, so he had some very unconventional things. One of the unconventional things he had was there was a small zoo out there of sheep and goats. There was also a mechanical rabbit behind home plate, which these are two really wacky features. In addition, back in the 60s as well, they also had a new mascot for the Athletics, and it was actually a donkey named Charlie O. I am not kidding. I'm not making it up. Do you think that's minor league? No, that's a major league team doing this. Now, some notable moments include the 1964 Beatles concert, which was the most expensive Beatles concert of all time, the 1960 MLB All-Star Game, and the 1971 NFL playoff game between the Chiefs and Dolphins that lasted which was the longest game in NFL history, played here at Municipal Stadium. And we'll be flying over the former site soon, but I think I see Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead in the same place. Hey, 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 hey. I'm going to do... So there it is. There's Kauffman Stadium, and right next to it is the home of the Chiefs, Arrowhead. So there it is. Let's go to Kauffman Stadium. So this here is Kauffman, guys. Kauffman Stadium is the home of the Royals. It's been that way since '73. Now this ballpark, this at the time, there's that Crown Vision scoreboard over here. Good noon. Is Casey an MLB team or NFL? Kansas City has both sports leagues APR, but the main team I'm talking about is the Royals, and there is the Kauffman Stadium. There's the Kansas City logo, and right over here, guys, what would be right here is the fountains. This is what the War Spectacular is located right here. Then there's the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame. There's the patio porch area. And the bullpens are located over here and over here. You're back, Martel. Good. We just overtook Kansas City for a bit. But definitely a very nice place to watch a game. And because this was made for baseball, you obviously get great seats and a great view of the game. Now, next to this is the Chiefs Stadium. Apparently, Arrowhead is actually one of the loudest places to watch a football game. And at one time, during a game Monday night, guess what? How many decibels? How loud it was? Want to take a guess? 3, 2, 1. Okay, 135 decibels. To put in perspective, a jet engine is around 120 decibels. So it is louder in Kansas City watching the Chiefs play football than it is hearing a jet engine take off. I am not kidding. Arrowhead is one of the most intimidating places in the entire National Football League. If this was an NFL series, I would definitely bring some facts about Arrowhead. But it's absolutely intimidating. But that concludes our Tuesday tour. Now we're going to go visit the old site of Municipal Stadium. So we're going to pay that a visit. That's a great question. There's where the Chiefs practice is located behind me. Not far from Arrowhead. Please repeat. How many Arrowhead can it seat? Arrowhead Stadium. Okay, Arrowhead Museum Stadium. Now, Arrowhead can actually seat up to 76,000 people. Yes, 76,000 people, and its noise is just insane. As in 2015, as in 2014, it reached a hundred. Actually, I got it wrong. It was actually more than that. It was 142.2 decibels. 142 decibels. That is insanely loud. Hey there, Arctic Turn. Welcome to the chat. Good to see you, Arctic Turn. Another fellow content creator. Good to see you there, Arctic Turn. Nice to see you here. We just overlooked Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, home of the Royals. And we're visiting now the former site of Municipal Stadium. And then we're going to visit the last destination of our list. Let me go ahead and bring... No problem. We're just in the end of our stream, and we finally have one last place to look at. That being the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. This is the... this museum was actually privately funded and founded in 1990 to preserve the history of Negro League Baseball in the United States. Now, this museum chronically charts the progress of the leagues with informative play cards and interactive exhibits. And one of the most impressive aspects of the museum is the Field of Legends, which features 12 nearly life-size statues of some of the greatest players that have played in that era in baseball, including Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Buck O'Neil, Buck Leonard, and more. No worries, Arctic Turn. In fact, we're flying over the museum right now. I believe we're actually right in... In fact, we're actually flying right next to the museum. Now, right next to this museum is the Kansas City Major League Baseball Urban Youth facility. There's the Municipal Stadium site, and then we should go to the site. So I'm going to pull this up. Now the museum is located over here. And it's located right here. And here is our baseball museum located over here. It actually shares the same space as one of the local theaters. And this is our baseball museum. It's right here. There is the baseball museum where it's located. Over here. And that is our baseball museum. This is where a lot of the legends of the Black Baseball Leagues during the multiple eras have been honored here in the stadium for generations. And now we should get ready to finally get our airport. So our landing is going to be at runway 01. We're just going to go straight in. So Martel said you should wear ear protection in Arrowhead. Yes, you're going to need to wear ear protection. Trust me. I mean, any stadium that can survive 142 decibels, yes, you're going to need extra ear protection at Arrowhead. Good to see everyone here in the chat. Thank you for coming later in the stream. No matter if you're late in the stream or early, you're more than welcome to join me. And there's downtown Kansas City, boys. Kansas City. In fact, there is a song by the Beatles called Kansas City, Hey, 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 which is their cover of one of the songs. And it's definitely one of the more iconic songs about KC. Got a little power. This should be a rather easy thing to land. There's the banks of the Missouri. This should be a really easy landing. The BL3 is more than capable of making these landings. Also, KC is known for the National Airline History Museum because aviation's a huge deal in KC as well. Oh, there's a train break. Oh, there's a train break. Oh. This should glide in really easily. Yeah, this plane does not make much of a runway. And this thing stops really easily, too. And that concludes our stream. I see someone else landing. Good. Let's put the brakes. And that concludes today's stream. Does this plane have autopilot? No. Actually, there is a command you could do autopilot, and there is a mod that will let you have autopilot, Martel, but the plane itself doesn't. Friend to all is down, and let's see US APR is here. I believe he's the last one in the sky. And I definitely know who to raid today. I think there is someone we should absolutely raid. And I think we should raid Ailerons in the Wind. For those who don't know, he's a good friend of the Two-Tone Murphy community. He is one of their more active members, and I think it'd be great to give him a raid. I believe it does have autopilot, but it's not really integrated in the sim. You click the black top in front of the compass. Oh. And US APR has landed in what looks like a Stearman. But it's also, you might have the X-Cup. Good to see you. So guys, this actually concludes our stream. I wanted to say thank you everyone. But I do want to make an announcement. So Friday I will be streaming. My new Bush Flight series will be heading to the Swiss and Austrian Alps with the brand new Junkers Ju-52. And then I'm not going to be streaming Sunday. I'm going to be out of town, so I'm hoping either I stream this upcoming Saturday, or I might want to stream it next Sunday, because I'm going to be heading out of town, so I want to thank everyone for being here, and I think it's about time we set up a raid. And I think let's raid Ailerons into the Wind. How's that sound? I know Merce raided him, so we're going to raid him too. So I think we will be raiding his channel. So thank you everyone, and have a great day streaming.